you mentioned Tibor, and he's very familiar with like the whole kip and caboodle about the region, specifically Somaliland, where the other day actually wrote something that he did disagree with you. He had a great deal of respect for you, but again, that's having difference of opinion. Now I want to talk a little bit about the senators and some of the Republican policymakers and their sort of China view of the world. Obviously, we know, when you are sort of operating at that level, or even when you were sort of, an ambassador in Somalia, you have access to lots of classified information that lots of people can see and, cannot know. Now, would you still say, I mean, obviously, if Senator Ted Cruz wanted to, get the Cliff's note about Somaliland and how important it is to the United States national security interest, he wouldn't just call Langley, which is 40 or an hour drive to get a full briefing and actually get caught up. In other words, what I'm saying is, they may have a lot more information to make such a decision. Right. And obviously, it could be just maybe that. And obviously the people that we're talking about, the person that he replaced on that very seat is none other than the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, which I believe also is very familiar with those things in foreign affairs. So
he came to Djibouti when I was ambassador there. Rubio did.
Yeah. Right. And again, for his age, he's been, in that committee for quite a while with Senator Wish, also a great supporter of Somalia. Now, why would you say that it's not like it's just an obsession with China as opposed to maybe prioritizing, again, the angle that I really want to focus on is not so much as what's good for Somaliland, because obviously if you are a sitting U.S. senator, your objective is to advance that with a national interest. And again, there's nothing to be gained against an antagonistic, position against China, but this is where we are. Why would you explain to me your divergence that, thinking that maybe it's just an obsession with China as opposed to it's actually based on things that they may know. For example, the United States has lost all influence in Djibouti, right? And, the Djibouti actually had prevented them from, launching any kinetic things against the Houthis recently.
Yeah, I can only really speak in a detailed manner from January of 18 to January of 21.
Let me ask the question differently. If the Chinese were to gain the 850 kilometers of Somaliland instead of the United States, how does that actually serve or affect the United States interest when it comes to that all-important battle member?
Yeah, it's important that the southern approach to the Red Sea. I keep seeing references to Somaliland's ports on the Red Sea, and I scratch my head. Yeah, you see that all the time. But the southern approach to the Red Sea, it's a strategic bottleneck. I have been out in the Bab el Mandeb is what I want to say, straits with the Djiboutian Coast Guard, and I've just seen the two-way traffic, and it's pretty much constant.
Busy, right?
Yeah, so that is an important strategic spot on the planet. And of course, there's resources there. A close friend of mine runs a seafood processing plant in Djibouti, Jiba, with a lot of regional partners. The fisheries are very rich. There's some talk about mineral resources. So we'll see. The whole region could be prosperous again if there was better governance, but we're not there yet. So yeah, that would be I don't know that China could achieve that. There's oftentimes that people do not take into consideration African agency. At least when I was in Djibouti, uh, I saw the Chinese overstepping and getting pushed back by the Djiboutians. I saw that the Djiboutians' attitude was very favorable towards China until the last physical investment was made, and then they started pushing back. Once you have sunk costs, you know.
But then again, they owe much of their GDP as a debt to China. I mean, I heard it's up to their eyeballs.
But they will just I have seen them say to the Chinese, "This is what we can afford, and we're not going to do more. And what are you going to do about it?"
Well,
And the other
obviously,
thing
it
that
helps to have
Chile,
it
I mean,
helps to have a U.S. base there.
please
So
go ahead.
it does help to have a U.S. base there.
And French and Italians and Japanese.
Sure, sure.
It's a popular basing
I
location.
mean, definitely like when it comes to the Chinese question, I mean, I think, their pressure on Somaliland has been ratcheting up. And again, you may, disagree with the senators in terms of their assessments of, sort of us versus China, but the Chinese are actually pretty clear-eyed because they've actually viewed Somaliland's, establishment of bilateral ties, with Taiwan as practically a hostile act. And I think that's most likely what precipitated, them to actually get a lot more cozier with, Somalia and do other things. I don't know if you heard of this, but Senator Ted Cruz, hearing, actually stated that the Chinese were actually doing some things in, places like Las Anod and things of that nature. I'm not sure, but again, there has been allegations. So not going to spend a whole lot of time on that.